Hey there, everybody. I'm joined by Scott Church, and we are here to talk about Star Trek CCG second edition. So last video, we talked about the first edition and all the interesting stuff that's cool about the first edition, but now we're going to talk about the top 10 cards in the second edition. Scott, do you want to start us off with talking about what second edition is and why it's different and what Decipher did? And I think we got kind of a fun list of cards here.
Yeah, so Star Trek First Edition was kind of coming to an end, and they knew they were going to restart the game. So they came up with a second edition of it. They were going to do this with Star Wars if they had kept the license for Star Wars as well. So Star Trek Second Edition basically reset everything. A lot of the cards were compatible with First Edition, but a lot of people just didn't play it if they really liked First Edition. A lot of people switched over. A lot of people didn't. It kind of divided the kind of players and collector group. The game was based around the first four sets. They basically designed it to play those first four sets, and then everything after that was kind of like, we'll see what we could do. Talking to a few designers for the game, the later releases, it was just kind of hit or miss when they came out. They'd get a message from up high in the company saying, hey, put into this set what you have, because it's probably our last one. They'd come up with ideas and a theme. They'd put it out, and then they'd sit and get notice that they were going to do that again. So it was kind of an interesting time period for Decipher. They were kind of winding down. They didn't have a lot of money. The company had less and less employees as the game went on. So they're doing what they could to get sales. And so we'll kind of see that in the set list here of our top 10. But as a side note, this is my top 10. The promos for second edition are insane. And we'll talk about that kind of as we go. And so I might be off on some of this. If you guys look at it and you're like, well, this promo's this amount, you missed this. I could be wrong. Some of these promos don't come up. There's one promo we'll talk about here that made its first appearance on eBay the first time in 10 years. It went up for sale, and it's going to be our number one here. So we'll get
real quick before we jump into it, is there roughly the same amount of collectors for first and second edition, or do a lot of people kind of favor like the OG first edition? Or
first edition definitely has more collectors than second edition does. There's a lot more people that played it in the 90s. The 2000s is when second edition came out, and so it has kind of a different base of players and collectors. It also hits later shows like Enterprise, which was not really part of the first series. While there's like a small little Enterprise set released, it actually made a big impact here on the second edition. The Enterprise show did. So second edition kind of covers all of the Star Trek universe, whereas first edition kind of did it in chunks.
Okay. Well, let's jump into it. So we have at number 10, I'm going to reveal here. So this is number 10.
Yeah.
Can you tell me what I'm looking at here?
So this is to Paul from, I think I have it listed there. This is from, these are the Voyages. These are archive foils is what they called them. And I don't know the exact rarity of them per like pack or box, but these are really hard to find for the most part. They're pretty pricey. This is a card that was originally in a Mirror Darkly. And so this was like a promo or a preview of what would be later a common or uncommon from In a Mirror Darkly. So they'd make these full art or extended art versions of these cards. And this is like one of them. It's probably one of the cheaper ones. But if you notice right off the bat, we've got kind of a sex appeal of the T'Pol character.
A lot of midriff there, right? A lot of midriff for the 2000s.
A lot of Britney Spears, Christina Aguilera action going on here. Pretty funny though, like that show, the Enterprise show, only lasted 4 seasons, and they really leaned into that very heavily. And we'll kind of see that here on as these later cards from these later sets kind of pop up. So
okay, so this is number 10, worth about 150. So interesting. So maybe we'll start to see a theme here of, another pretty lady. Okay, interesting.
That's right.
Theme that's emerging.
What's that?
It's an interesting theme that's emerging here a little bit. There's a lot of females on this list.
These are really hard to find cards, actually. It's not, but they made them that way as kind of the way to get a guy collector base to buy a lot of these cards. So again, this was it from the Captain's Log, originally from These Are the Voyages set. as a common, or I think it was an uncommon, and then it was released as this archive foil. And this is actually from the original series from the 60s of Star Trek. So it's kind of a throwback to the older version of Trek to give those fans something to search after.
Okay. So number 9, about 170 it appears. So still in a reasonable price range here, I think. All right. Ooh, Empress. I have no idea who these characters are, so this is fun for me.
Yeah, so actually Enterprise is pretty interesting because they did a little bit more with the Mirror Universe. So if you like kind of the evil side of Star Trek, it's actually a pretty fun watch. I think it's the 4th season of Enterprise gets really good, and it's really a shame that it ended there at number 4 because going into season 5, I know they're going to do things with the Borg and really kind of make it more of a unique show, or kind of like bring back other Trek things that make people interested in it. And so I wish they had continued, but yeah, Hoshi Sato, this is Empress when she was basically in the Mirror Universe, when she was evil. Again, one of the archive foils. These things are hard to find, and they're very collectible.
Okay, interesting. So about 170 as well, number 8. Okay. Okay.
And there she is again. This time taking what was like basically a common or uncommon from the last set, What You Leave Behind, and doing a preview of that card from the In the Mirror Darkly set. And as you can see, this is a card called Strip Down, and that was in one of the episodes. They're trying to get their ratings up any way they could in the show, and Decipher is trying to make money any way they could at this point in time.
We're gonna have to give this a PG-13 rating, or PG maybe. I don't know. But
that's right.
This is just kind of fascinating to see how different. They obviously. So are these like kind of ultra rare? Like what is the rarity here, right?
Yeah, it would be like an ultra rare, like for most games where it's 1 out of every 4 boxes. I guess would be around where it is, like every 3 or 4 boxes.
Okay.
Now this is our first promo. This is from the World Championship in 2005. It's a USS Enterprise D personal flagship. Now I have this listed. What number are we on here? Is this number
6?
6. So I have like 3 of these in stock. So to me, they aren't necessarily as hard to find, but they're near the top of value. Whereas the rest of these cards, I have maybe like 1 or 2 of them in stock. So really, like this isn't the hardest one to find per se, but it's value-wise, it makes it a tough card to get just because of the value on it.
It's interesting that 2005, I feel like that the mid-2000s are such a weird period for CCGs. They start to enter a bit of this like hibernation period, right? Where like the 90s were really big, and then like as you get into like the late O's, like there's just not a lot of CCGs coming out, right? It kind of slows down.
Decipher, and this is kind of the time. This is a time period for Decipher too, where they really don't have a lot of money. So it's kind of interesting that they're still doing, I can't remember offhand where they're doing a world championship at for this, but I'm curious what the participation was for that championship. So,
okay, so that's number 6. We're going on to number 5. So
all right, here's number 5. This is one of these promos where the price on this could be very different than what I think it is. I have it around $200. It's just a common or uncommon from the set, and a Necessary Evil, but they would reprint, commons or uncommons as foils and give them out at events or tournaments, or, send in so many package wrappers, and you would get the card back. So this one is just one of those promos for the game where you're like, I don't know what the real value is. If I got it and put it at 200, would it sell out right away? Someone felt like they got a great deal, or someone sitting there at home watching this saying, this is actually like a, $1,000 card. What are you doing? So it's one of those unknowns and guesstimate on pricing.
So you don't sell a lot of second edition in your store. Is that correct?
We actually sell quite a bit of it. It's probably like about our 7th best-selling game out of about 1,000, or sorry, not 1,000, about 100 different categories. It's about number 7 or 8 generally. So it does pretty well. It's just some of these promos are so hard to find. And same with those cards we were showing earlier. They just move really quickly. Like the archive foils, they don't last long once we get them in, and they don't come in all that often.
Interesting. Okay, so it's number 5, $200. Top 4 now. Okay, we have another. At least we have good sort of gender representation here. Good diversity here. Not
Yeah,
just
right.
all Darth Vaders and Luke Skywalkers, right?
So this is an interesting card because this is Persis, I believe is how you say it, and she, her normal card is in What You Leave Behind. That's the last set that was released, and Decipher did something interesting with the last set, What You Leave Behind. They actually didn't release it to distributors for stores to buy. They sold it only through Hills Wholesale Gaming. So if you were a retailer and you wanted to carry it, you had to order through them, and otherwise that was the only way to get it. So most of the collectors and players just ordered directly. I don't know how much they printed, but that last set's hard to get. So even the regular version of this card is like a $20 to $30 card. So the version we see here is the archive foil, and it's normally around 210 or so. And like I said, these, when they come in, they sell really quick. A lot of people are trying to collect these, finish off collections, and finish off these sets. And so these are highly collectible.
Interesting. Okay. Number 4. We got number 3 here. Getting Under Your Skin.
All right. So this is a Necessary Evil common uncommon that's reprinted as a foil. Again, this is a guesstimate on the price at $220, where I'd feel comfortable buying it and then selling it. But someone might be like, hey, I've been waiting for that for 8 years and I never see that come up on eBay. And I looked, there's no data on it. And so some of these promos are just guesstimates on where we think they would be, and not taking too much of a risk from a seller like myself where we're getting it in and we don't know if it'll sell. Because some of the promos we have priced and we're like, no one ever really picks these up. So are we overpricing on it? Is it not as rare? It's kind of an unknown with how much Decipher actually released of this stuff.
Well, it's so hard with these small markets, right? They're one, kind of easy to manipulate, but also there's just a small number of buyers and sellers,
right?
In them, so you don't have a lot of data. All right, so that's number 3. We're top 2 here.
Top 2, and we're gonna make it another woman-centered card, Nearest Slave Girl. Another card where the regular version of this is like the $20 to $30 range from the What You Leave Behind set, and so the archive foil is carrying some value there. Both the regular and the archive basically sell out the second we get them in. We have them at $250. We'll get maybe 2 of these a year, and they just sell out right away.
This is definitely appealing to the lowest common denominator here, right? So
yeah, I mean, like I said, the Enterprise series, and most of these are pulled from Enterprise. I mean, this is obviously the slave girls, the green slave girls like this were Captain Kirk's. You saw them on the original Star Trek, where they go to the planet where these women are at. But then Enterprise then makes another trip there, so they could kind of recreate it, the costumes and whatnot. It's kind of ridiculous.
Okay, so we're moving on to our top card here. Number 1. So
number 1. This caught me totally by a surprise. Now, I have here the last time it's been up for auction. This is from the winning bid. It's been like 8 years where it hadn't been up on for sale anywhere. They received 6 bids. The winning bidder was in Australia, paying Australian dollar of 1,446. For U.S. customer or U.S. based people, that's about $1,000 just over $1,000 is what that translates to. So I was telling you, Matt, like I had this probably at about $200 on my site. I didn't realize that there was such a demand for this card. So it's one of those promos you just don't know how many people are looking for it or needing it. I can tell you just about every card on this list has over 10 people on the wish list on my website. So when it comes in, an email is sent to those people letting them know that it's arrived on the site and they can come pick it up. So each of these cards is highly desired, but with some of these promos, we just don't know what someone's actually willing to pay for it to finish off a collection or get that card they've always wanted.
It's just fascinating because like my jaw has been on the floor the entire time because each of these is pretty random, right? Like this is random. Like obviously there was kind of a trend there with like the pretty lady, like the skimpy clothing trend, but like by and large, it's not iconic characters. It's not Captain Kirk's. It's not, whatever bridge crews. It's just weird stuff, to be honest.
Well, and you saw in first edition, just about every one of those cards was playable, right? Captain Kirk as the most valuable regular card, the Decarin's #1, it's oversized, but Captain Kirk being the best card, it's one of the best cards to play in the game as well, not only collect. There's a whole player aspect of that first edition. And you see it with the second edition. Who's buying this? It's about 80-90% of the people buying second edition were collectors, not players. And they were just going for sets or collections, and playing it was not a big aspect to them. So you're seeing it with this, where who's picking this up? It's probably collectors trying to get all the ladies they can in this instance.
Fascinating, Scott. So I do want to tell folks that this is going to be kind of an ongoing series. I think Scott and I are going to do maybe 5 or 6 more different games. So if that sounds cool, please like, subscribe, check out Scott's store. You can probably find some of this stuff. We're doing Star Trek right now. I think we're done probably with Star Trek for a while, unless there's a new list that comes out, some new cards. But this has been just a lot of fun to do, and I knew nothing about Star Trek Second Edition, and I don't know if I'm sold on getting some. I think I might stick with First Edition, but to each their own. Scott, any kind of final thoughts here?
I always say collect the things you enjoy, and so if that's what you enjoy, go for it. But if you want to just play for fun, the first few sets of Star Trek Second Edition are really cheap. So you can really get into the game and play sets 1 through 3 without investing a whole lot. I actually have a customer right now where he wants to be able to play with his kids. And so he's like, put together like $150 worth of stuff and just send it to me and I'll just pay you for it. So I'm putting together basically a order right now for him of just like a ton of stuff that's good for playing. So we could do stuff like that. And that's kind of a fun way to go about some of these games, is if you're just looking for fun and to play with your kids or friends, or learn to play it yourself, we can set up stuff like that for you.
Yeah, that's kind of great to know. And I have kind of heard that the rules were kind of streamlined in Second Edition, right? So it's a little maybe more modern of a gaming experience than the original, which I think there's just so much experimental card design stuff happening in the 90s, right? No one really knew what the ideal game was. So there's a lot of different stuff happening. Well, thanks so much, Scott. And like I said, we'll get back in a couple of weeks with a new one of these. But thanks everyone for tuning in, and we'll catch you next time.